It's such a good political choice. Hello, welcome to Dangerous Policy, a channel aimed at intelligent people while we discuss important issues facing life and society. My name is Crispin, and today I'm going to talk about President Trump's Supreme Court nomination pick, Amy Coney Barrett, and what it means for the US presidential election. Now, Judge Barrett has been sort of the favorite for a long time. So the announcement wasn't a surprise. And indeed, in private conversations previously, Trump had indicated that he was saving her for Ginsburg's seat. So this has all been lined up for a long period of time, but with an extremely truncated time period before the election. So I'm just going to talk about who she is as an individual, and I think the most powerful politically figure that Trump could have chosen. So on the one hand, she's everything that the Democrats hate. She's an originalist, she's a conservative, she is a practicing devout Catholic, which would give you an indication of how she feels about, fertility and abortion and all of those sorts of family planning issues. So on the one hand, she is your staunch conservative, beloved by the Democrats. But she also has a personal story that the Democrats are going to have a very hard time with. The first is that I think she might even be the first, or certainly one of the few, Supreme Court nominees who didn't graduate from Harvard or Yale, right? One of the things about the US Supreme Court is that it's an incredibly elitist cabal. Presidents don't really like to deviate from those two law schools because they're concerned about the autoritas of the institution. So Barrett graduated from Notre Dame and therefore is not part of that Ivy League tradition. So that's a very kind of egalitarian democratization of the bench sort of factor that the Democrats are going to have a hard time attacking. Then there is her personal life, and this is where it gets extraordinary. So she has, I think, 5 children, plus 2 that she has adopted from Haiti. Her youngest child has Down syndrome, and she has a devoted family, loving husband. She looks really great on camera. She looks very sincere and empathetic as a mother and as a jurist. And so combining, having a large family, looking after adopted kids from developing country, looking after a child with special needs, and also being a prominent justice. So this is going to make her very well liked among Middle America. They're just going to like her. When you see her on in her speech with Donald Trump, she seems like the woman next door, right? The sort of super mom that does everything, but in a sort of humble way. She doesn't come across as being like an acerbic Harvard kind of alumni. She seems like an ordinary person, and people are going to like that. And the fact is, the Republicans have the numbers in the Senate. They're definitely going to confirm her no matter what. And there are a range of pitfalls that the Democrats have in attacking her. One, they can't attack her too strongly because they will be perceived as them going after a woman at a time when this is very much in vogue in the Democratic Party. The next thing is that, and I'll read out some of the tweets that we are seeing in some of the most ugly attacks that are happening. The Democrats are at risk of losing the radical wing of their own party, and I'll show you why. So we have a number of prominent Democratic figures, and I'll read you their attacks, and just sit down for this one. So John Lee Brewer says, as an adoptee, I need to know more about the circumstances of how Amy Coney Barrett came to adopt her children and the treatment of them since. Transracial adoption is fraught with trauma and potential for harm. Everything I see here is concerning. So, of course, Amy has 5 of her own children, they're going to be Caucasian, and then you have 2 from Haiti who are obviously of African descent. Apparently, transracial adoption is now racist. Anyway, Ruth Ben-Giat, building on Dr. Ibram's comments, many authoritarians seized children of color for adoption by white Christians. Pinochet's regime did this with indigenous kids, and Nazis took Aryan-looking Poles for German families. Trump makes migrant kids for adoption by evangelicals. Ibram Kendi. Some white colonizers adopted black children. They civilized these savage children in the superior ways of white people while using them as props in their lifelong pictures of denial, while cutting biological parents of these children out of the picture of humanity, with a picture of Amy and her husband and their children. This is just extraordinary. These people that are just going to try and turn this into a racial thing by taking this woman who looks like every bit a wonderful human being, aside from being potentially a really good justice, who adopted 2 disadvantaged children to join her already very large family, and they're going to accuse her of being a racist for doing that. I just want people to imagine how that will play out in the minds of ordinary people. This is a line of attack the Democrats are actually going with here. I mean, they just want to set themselves on fire in politically weeks before the election. It seems just absolutely insane to me. And if they go after Amy Barrett the way they went after Brett Kavanaugh, they will lose. They will absolutely lose. People are going to be so upset about this. And then there are other lines of attack that the Democrats are at risk of making too. There is the arguments that it shouldn't be done before the election. Well, I think politically it's insane for the Republicans to do anything other than confirm the nominee before the 3rd of November. The reason being that whatever was said in 2016 about Merrick Garland, the fact is that if they don't confirm the nominee, then Republican voters are going to be very upset because Republican voters do really care about the Supreme Court justice seats. And the fact that they've named a candidate who is going to be so beloved by people, if she's not on the bench come election day, they're going to get pretty annoyed, right? Particularly since the Republicans clearly do have the numbers to push this through. The second thing is that there is an argument that says, well, you should wait till after the election to motivate Republican voters because if they lose the Senate and they lose the White House, then potentially, or very likely, Barrett won't be put on the bench. But the problem is that motivates Democrats as well. So if the Democrats have already lost, if no matter what happens, she is on the Supreme Court justice and they've got a 6-3 conservative split on the Supreme Court, then you have a fait accompli and yet another example of the Democrats having lost. And if you've got that sort of sense of perpetual failure going into the election, you actually will depress some of the Democratic vote, and Republican voters who see Coney Barrett being confirmed as a Supreme Court justice will view the merits of going out and voting for Donald Trump as being absolutely overriding. They'll go out and see it as a democratic duty and patriotic responsibility to go out and vote for Donald Trump, with the hope that there will be even more Supreme Court nominations, and there'll be at least probably one in the next 4 years. So this could even become an even bigger deal. So a potential for a great win for the Republicans going into the election. That if the Democrats get too angry about this, then that will come out pretty badly. And what we're seeing is the threat that if the Republicans push through a new Supreme Court justice, the Democrats will respond by, when they control the Senate and the White House, stacking the court, so-called, i.e. that they'll expand the number of Supreme Court justices so they can put more Democratic justices on the Supreme Court above the additional 9, which doesn't, I don't think, require a constitutional amendment. It's something that they can just do. Which the mere threat of that is really absurd to people, because of course what will happen is the Republicans will do the same thing when they get into power, and then you'll just have 100 Supreme Court justices, and then the whole thing will end in farce. So the mere threat of doing that and the obvious response from the Republicans makes the Democrats look churlish. It makes them look like they don't take the Constitution seriously. And I'm thinking of Professor Lawrence Tribe here, who's a Harvard professor of law, a strong Democratic Party kind of apparatchik, who said that there's nothing in the Constitution that says that President Trump and the Senate can't nominate and confirm a justice before the 3rd of November, but there are many stupid things in the Constitution. That's a quote. So what you have is the Democratic Party really starting to hate the game as well as the players. They complain constantly about the Electoral College, which just shows that, if you're constantly complaining about the rules that everybody plays by, then you're basically showing yourself to be the loser. And people don't want to vote for losers. Let's face it, they want to vote for winners. So for that reason, I think that this is really playing well for Donald Trump, and it's distracting from of course, the pandemic and the economic malaise and all of those issues. And it's also interesting timing, because the hearings will be in the week of the 16th of October. So it will be one of the last most impressive, impactful decisions that happen right before the election. So they'll have the 1 week of hearings, and the Democrats have to navigate that really carefully. And then they will vote to confirm them before the election. So they'll have that win going right into the election. There'll be a bit of momentum created. And it'll also be happening during the presidential debate. So what Joe Biden says about this is going to play into it very, very carefully. I can't think of anyone that President Trump could have nominated that is more impressive, both in motivating and inspiring conservatives, but also poleaxing the Democrats, than Amy Coney Barrett. She's a very impressive figure, a very impressive person, a very humble background, extraordinary family, and quite likely a very decent human being. And the other thing as well is that people don't want in the United States for people to be attacked for their Christian faith. The fact that she may be pro-life and may have these sort of issues that a lot of Democrats hate. Well, it's obviously rooted in her deep religious convictions, and in a country as religious as the United States, you've got to be very careful about accusing someone of being a religious zealot. So for all of these reasons, I think that this is going to go really, really well for the Republicans, and well done to Donald Trump for choosing someone who clearly is going to motivate everybody on his side of politics. It was a really good sense judgment, and I do think it was his personal choice, because this is a long-standing thing. He had been talking about this for some years. I think that we'll see how it goes, but good luck to Amy Coney Barrett. I think she'll be a fine Supreme Court justice, and good luck for the election. If you have any views on this, please leave a comment down below. Happy to discuss it. We will, of course, discuss the US election a lot more over the next few weeks, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you.